We have to give you some actionable advice for running backs in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. If you look around the league, running backs aren't getting paid like they were. Running backs aren't getting the contracts like they were. So what do we do with them in Dynasty? Because this is obviously going to straight affect their Dynasty value. We're going to talk about that all and more today. Do us a huge favor. First, make sure you drop a like on the video and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. If you play Dynasty Fantasy Football, this channel is where you're going to want to be. We are going to release Dynasty content all year round, going to help you get ready for this season, next year's rookie draft season. So you're going to want to be here. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you would like one of our new player blueprints for your Dynasty team, go over to flockfantasy.com/domain. When you choose the annual Mother Flocker tier, you get one of these bad boys for your Dynasty team. You also get rankings from us and other creators, articles. You get databases. You get access to our Discord where we hang out, give people advice, and you get access to our listener leagues as well to play in leagues with us. So, like I said, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain for 30% off. Look around the league, starting even quite a few months ago with the likes of Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs. These guys are starting to negotiate. These running backs are starting to negotiate new deals with their teams, and their teams aren't really giving them a lot right now. And then it kind of trickled down to Saquon. It's like, okay, Saquon's a pretty big name here. And then it went to JT, and now it's directly affecting us as Colts fans. But when you look around the league, these running backs, because they're not getting paid like they used to, this is going to directly impact their Dynasty value. When you're looking at how we evaluate players' values over a course of time in Dynasty, we are heavily factoring in their contract situation because it gives them long-term situational stability. When you take away that aspect, that's going to give a huge hit. It's going to knock a huge blow into their Dynasty values. And so we kind of have to talk about how we're approaching that. Like I said, it's happened with multiple guys now. So what should you be doing with these running backs? How are you kind of approaching this in Dynasty, this situation with your running backs that you're currently rostering, and then also moving forward like into startup drafts and things like that?
Yeah, this seems to be a train that pretty much everyone in the Dynasty community has joined, and they're just flying down the tracks with this new strategy that we're going to take the top 16 wide receivers before the top five running backs are even off the board. And I just want to say, let's pump the brakes a little bit here, okay? Because last season, going into 2022, we were saying, let's take wide receiver. There's too many questionable assets at the running back position with Najee Harris, with DeAndre Swift, with Javonte Williams going at the 1-2 turn. Give me the quarterbacks in a Superflex league. Give me a wide receiver there in a Superflex league, in CD Lamb, in AJ Brown. Those were the likes of those assets that were going around that time going into 2022. And now you've seen the benefits of the people that followed that wide receiver heavy strategy in the top rounds of their Dynasty startups. But it's because those people zigged when everyone else was zagging. And that's kind of our point here is I want us to slow down a little bit. I want us to kind of reflect on some specific players here at the running back position, because really, what are we expecting here for running backs in Dynasty? What are we expecting them to do? Yes, there's contract issues. Yes, there's negotiation issues. Yes, there's maybe relationships that are kind of on the rocks. This is a business, though. Once the running backs get paid, and they will at some point, they're going to play. And if they don't get paid, guess what? They're going to play. And how do you win championships in Dynasty? Just like fantasy, it's by scoring points. And running backs, believe it or not, are pivotal in winning you Dynasty championships.
Yes,
and the value is absolutely there. There's not a chance that until this season you are getting a running back who's going to score 18 plus points per game this year. You're getting those guys in the 3rd and 4th round. That is unheard of. That has never, ever happened before.
Yeah.
So I want to explore some of these running backs that have just in the last week or two, have dipped in value according to Keep Trade Cut significantly to a point where they're becoming, I would say, significant values. And I kind of just want to look at each individual player. I want to say, what's their outlook for this season? Let's be realistic. Let's not predict that they're not going to play the entire season. Some of these guys are under contract, and they're absolutely going to play. So why are they decreasing in value? First guy is Jonathan Taylor. We all know the story with Jonathan Taylor. We all know the story with Jim Irsay and how he tweeted something that he shouldn't have, and now he's getting hate for paying to fly a whale, an orca across the country, and not paying Jonathan Taylor. Anyone who's making that argument, by the way, is stupid, because it's a completely different situation.
I didn't know a whale counted against the salary cap.
Yeah, people don't understand what the salary cap is. Jonathan Taylor, in our most recent startup draft that we did, fell to the 309. Okay, we were saying Jonathan Taylor was a buy going at the 2.6, 209.
Yeah.
And he's now fallen a full round in ADP because he's a little mad that he's not getting paid going into the 4th year of his rookie deal.
So, I mean, even if he doesn't play for the Colts, though, I mean, is the expectation from y'all that Jonathan Taylor is going to be out of the league next year?
We are 1 year removed from a running back 1 overall season where he scored 22 points per game. What do we expect here? I'm going to call my shot here, okay? I'm going to call my shot and say that Jonathan Taylor is probably not going to hold out this season because it in no way benefits him at all.
He'll play.
In any way. He will play.
Within the next 3 weeks, he's going to be back on the field practicing.
Yes. And what does that mean for him? That means he is playing in a backfield with Anthony freaking Richardson, where all they're going to be doing is running a 6-back offense, RPOs. Who's the ball going to go to? No one on defense is going to know. What's that mean? It means it's going to put a lot of focus off of Jonathan Taylor, which means every time he gets a touch, he's going to be more efficient with it, and he's going to freaking blow the tires off defenses.
Yeah.
Is that a reasonable expectation?
No, it totally is.
Is it more reasonable than expecting him to not play? And is it more reasonable to expect that he's going to outproduce his ADP?
We're going to look back at this and we're going to think it's very silly.
Running back 5, he's 24 years old, being valued behind 27-year-old worn and torn Christian McCaffrey.
So he's not even,
not even close.
He's 24
to Christian
and a half.
McCaffrey.
He is 3 years younger than Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah.
And has almost the same ceiling. I mean, even in the receiving game, Jonathan Taylor's a very good receiving back. He doesn't get enough credit for that. But with Jonathan Taylor specifically, again, he's going to play this year. He will play this year. He's going to play next year. He's going to play the year after that. I get that there's not a sense of security with the contract situation right now, but at the same time, you kind of have to think past what you see and look to what you don't see yet. When you do that, a lot of times in Dynasty, it really does pay off. A lot of people had that payoff with Deshaun Watson. Did we really think Deshaun Watson wouldn't make it back in the NFL? Most people thought he would. The NFL has no spine when they're disciplining players. So we figured if you bought Deshaun Watson in the 3rd round and anticipating he would get paid, now you've got 1st-round startup value. Jonathan Taylor, if you're buying Jonathan Taylor in the 3rd, 4th round now, which is insane, the 3rd, 4th round, you're looking ahead. Does he have a contract yet? No, there's not a tangible thing there. You can be like, yeah, I can hold on to this that will insulate his value. However, you and I both know,
he's probably not going to be out of the league within the next 2 years.
He's not going to be out of the league. Nick Chubb recently, he's going as the RB8 on Keep Trade Cut. Recently took a dip in value, just randomly.
He kind of randomly increased, and now he's falling again.
Which I mean, market correction, I guess.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Nick Chubb, 27 years old, 27 and a half, set up for a hyper-productive season. He also is still on a contract, and I think that goes through next year, right? So, I mean, you're talking about a couple years of value inflation, but these running backs, I mean, the thing that you have to consider with the running back market in the committee that has become so popular pretty much on every team now, these running backs are not going to just fall off like Todd Gurley did. They're not going to, for a number of reasons. Number one, Todd Gurley was actually an anomaly. You have backs play well into their 30, 31-year-old seasons now. See, Leonard Fournette was productive as of last year, right? And he's, old and fat. So you're talking about Nick Chubb.
Fatnet.
You're talking about Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb, probably the 2 best running backs, in my opinion, in the league. And that's
true running backs.
So, and Nick Chubb, even Nick Chubb after next year. The difference between Jonathan Taylor and Nick Chubb is if you're talking about a dynasty startup draft, Nick Chubb is going 6th round. He's probably going to outscore Jonathan Taylor this year. I even think you could make the argument that, well, Jonathan Taylor's so low now, this isn't true. But when Jonathan Taylor was valued accurately, you can make the argument that Nick Chubb at price was a better value because of his situation where he's going to go. Who else?
Yeah. Josh Jacobs, our next guy. So this is a bit more of a small tick in a small knock on his value recently. But look, every day that he is not at training camp and every day that he's reportedly leaving Las Vegas, which they have millions of dollars, they can go wherever the heck they want in the country. Who cares? I don't give a rip that he's in training camp. Honestly, I don't give a rip if any running back plays in training camp at all. I would prefer that no running back is in training camp and gets any touches at all because I don't want them touching the field, getting any sort of hits whatsoever until they get into the season. Josh Jacobs not playing in training camp, I'm fine with that. Honestly, that makes me happier about him going into the season because he's going to be fresh, man. Totally fresh.
He's not going to know the plays.
Totally fresh. This is the same situation as Saquon Barkley, and we called this with Barkley. We said, what do you think the Giants are going to do? What do you think Saquon Barkley is going to do? Do you think they're going to go into this season and legitimately not pay, or Saquon Barkley is going to go into the season and legitimately refuse to play for a team that honestly has the firepower to make a run to the Super Bowl this year because of how weak the NFC is? And Saquon Barkley is the focal point in that offense. Josh Jacobs is now going into an offense where they're going to need him. They're absolutely going to need him. Jimmy Garoppolo
is going to get him on the field.
Jimmy Garoppolo is an underrated quarterback, but he does have his limitations as a mobile quarterback and as a passer, and he absolutely uses his weapons around him. Josh Jacobs is going to be a focal point in that offense. Why would he not play? Does it incentivize him in any way to not play? Tell me. You're talking about the running back one in standard leagues last season.
I mean, Joe Mixon took a hit from the negative publicity, so he took the negative press hit, and then just never went back up.
Never went back up.
Just stayed.
Why? He's playing in the same situation, but better. P. Ryan is gone. If you thought P. Ryan was impacting Mixon in any way, he's gone.
And I say this kind of...
Chase Brown, he's nothing.
That's what I was going to say.
What do you think Chase Brown's going to do? Guys, Joe Burrow is not even going to be playing this entire training camp. They're probably not going to want him to move they're going to want to keep him in the pocket. They're not going to want him to run at all.
I mean, Joe Mixon is taking team-friendly deals to stay in Cincinnati with an elite offense. His contract is set up to where he probably will be back there next year as well. And even after that, you're talking about he just turned 27. Just turned 27. I don't think... And where's he going in startups now?
Well, I'm looking at our most recent startup draft. He went at the 705. And that was higher than what I've usually seen.
I've been seeing
He's usually falling to the 8th or 9th.
Yep.
Way closer to Chase Brown.
Now, the next guy is a little bit more warranted as to why he's fallen, but still incredibly low.
Yeah, so here's what I understand about DeAndre Swift. He absolutely should have fallen after last season. You're saying, okay, he's wildly efficient. I would still argue a premier passing down running back in the NFL, but that hasn't translated to fantasy points as much as we anticipated. He still, over the last 3 seasons, has been the RB 15 on a points per game basis, the RB 8, and last season, his worst season ever, still RB 15 on a points per game basis. He is insanely efficient with literally 35 to 40% snap share, and he's going into a better situation where Miles Sanders 8 in the Eagles offense, the best offensive line possible. Rashad Penny, who's the projected running back 1 in that offense, will get hurt by week 4. You can count on that. What do you think Swift's going to do? His ADP, according to Keep Trade Cut, has just been a steady decline. Absolute steady decline. I get he should have dropped. But once he dropped, he should have had a constant value, especially when he went to a better situation. A completely better situation. You're telling me that Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, Dallas Goedert, Devonta Smith, and that offensive line isn't going to help DeAndre Swift in his production? Look at what Miles Sanders did, and he didn't even have passing volume last season. I don't get it.
Dalvin Cook is down to the RB, wait for it, 38. So he is now, value-wise,
last season's running back 11. Last season's running back 11 in PPR.
An RB4. Okay, so I get it. Dalvin Cook, he's 28. He's old. You do realize he's only played in the league for 6 years, right? Right? Dalvin's not going unsigned. Why did the Vikings want to get rid of him? Maybe because the Vikings are going to pass the ball more. Maybe. And maybe because nobody's paying running backs right now. And also, Dalvin, as a runner, can be fairly inefficient, especially in short yard situations and in the red zone.
Absolutely.
However, as a pass catcher, Dalvin Cook has continued to do what he has done in the past. He is going to do that for a new team this year. It is going to be a contender. When he does do this, his value is going to go up. This is how it happens. Every time. Dalvin Cook,
steady decline.
If you're buying him an RB38, the return on investment this year from a production standpoint is going to outweigh that for sure. And he's going to go back up in overall value. And you're getting him real late. Mm-hmm. And the next two guys don't even... What's happening with them makes almost no sense.
Yeah, and this is the contrast. These are the outliers that make absolutely no sense to me in any way.
Now, granted, with CMC, I do think... same thing. He's 27. He's in an elite offense. He's an elite producing back. But why is
he the one that we make an exception for? Why?
And he's gone too high. He is the RB2 now.
All of these guys.
If Christian McCaffrey is the RB2, why is Nick Chubb, who is 6 months older, the RB8? Why is Joe Mixon, who is actually younger than Christian McCaffrey, the RB24?
Why is Josh Jacobs the running back 9?
I know
he's still 25
I know
years
Christian
old.
McCaffrey has a higher ceiling. I know he's a better player. I know he's in a better offense. I get the appeal.
He's not doing 29 points per game.
We're clearly not valuing players for their situations right now, because if we were, Joe Mixon would be a top 10 running back.
Yeah.
Joe Mixon's in just as good a situation. He has proved that he's a consistent fantasy producer. Very consistent. In fact, he's been more consistent over the last 5 years than Christian McCaffrey has, because he's stayed out of injury trouble for the most part. Why is McCaffrey rising and all these other guys falling? Like, there's got to be an in between here. Christian McCaffrey has value. So do these other guys. Travis Etienne, all of a sudden he's rising in value.
Here is the only reason why, because Doug Peterson said he's going to get 16 to 1,700 yards from scrimmage during training camp this season. Do you know where we heard this one time last season? Frank Reich said, I'd be drafting Nyheim Hines in my fantasy leagues everywhere. And he spiked in value. Do you know what ended up happening? It was not pretty.
Nyheim Hines got traded and Frank Reich got fired.
Yep.
Okay,
I think that's going to happen with Travis Etienne and Doug P? No.
No.
Travis Etienne is absolutely a better running back. But they did not draft Tank Bigsby for no reason. They did not draft Tank Bigsby for him to have 300 yards from scrimmage and for Travis Etienne to have 1,700.
You said it that time. You said Tank Bigsby.
Tank Bigsby's.
See, I don't think it was me that was saying. All right. So overall, what are we doing with running backs? So first of all, in startup drafts, I would be careful to draft running backs at the top right now because of their value insulation. But you don't have to draft them at the top, because right now you're getting Jonathan Taylor at the end of the third.
You should be eating them up there.
So, I mean, when these guys fall, when Josh Jacobs, when he falls into the 5th round, yes, absolutely there. With Nick Chubb in the 7th, yes, absolutely there. So take them when they fall. Don't reach for them, and don't take them at their current sleeper ADP, because we all know about sleeper ADP and it's bad and stuff.
Very bad.
In terms of trading for running backs, look, if you can trade for a running back and you can get a smoking deal on a guy that we know is going to be an elite producing back and going to have some value, you should do it. I'm not going out of my way to make deals centered around running backs, especially when I'm shipping off value-insulated pieces like wide receivers and quarterbacks, which I did if you look at our recent trade video, and now I regret it.
Josh Jacobs plus for T. Higgins.
Oh, Josh Jacobs plus.
Yeah.
Like,
and
yes.
And he's already scoring many more points than T. Higgins will.
So not going out of my way to trade for them. But if you have these guys on your roster, you're holding these running backs. Like, if you got somebody that's decreasing in value because of a situational thing, you're holding. You have to hold. You cannot sell right now.
It has been a long offseason. We cannot wait for football to come back. And the Dynasty community is going to come to when the season starts again. They're going to realize all over again, oh, crap. I actually need these running backs. I actually forgot that they're the ones that score us more points than even some of the best wide receivers, with the exception of Justin Jefferson.
Eventually, the market will correct itself. Points will prevail. They always do. But again, that's kind of what we're doing with running backs in Dynasty Fantasy Football right now. So that's going to do it. flockfantasy.com/domain to check out our exclusive content, including player blueprints, player blueprint right here on the screen. And if you do the annual Mother Flocker tier, you get one of those for your Dynasty team. You also get access to rankings, articles, our Discord, listener leads, etc. So make sure you head over to flockfantasy.com/domain using code domain there. As always, we appreciate you watching. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you later.